Hello everyone! In this tutorial, I'm gonna show you how to do this beautiful cactus illustration using the oil painting brushes. Remember, if you are part of Monthly Brush Club, you can access to all the resources, texture papers and colors that I'm using as part of some of the memberships. When you open the illustration pack, it will look something like that, and you will find the brushes, texture papers and color swatches. Make sure that you install everything and open the texture paper, which is the canvas that we're going to be using to draw. The brushes, they will be these ones, which are a selection of the oil painting brushes, and this is the color palette. Let's start creating our design. Remember, when using texture paper, we always draw in the layer underneath the texture. I'm going to start by opening the pencil brush and selecting a black color because we're going to start sketching the illustration. I'm going to start with the floor and then I'm going to start drawing a cactus right in the middle. I like to start with the main part of the cactus that is right in the center, and then I'm going to start drawing some arms in both sides of the cactus. I like to make the shapes a little bit irregular and not perfect so it looks more realistic. Also, I try to draw the parts of the cactus that are more at the bottom, a little bit thicker than the part at the top. I'll draw now another cactus on the right, and this one is going to be the typical cactus that we always see in cartoons. I'm going to start with a cylinder type of shape in the middle, and then I'm going to draw the two arms in both sides. I like to do one arm bigger than the other because I think it looks cuter. And then finally I'm gonna draw two round cactuses in front of this one. Very simple, I draw two circles and then I just draw some lines from the bottom to the top just to create this round 3D effect. The final cactus I'm gonna draw, it is a prickly pear cactus. I'll start drawing an oval at the bottom and then I'm gonna keep drawing ovals over and over to create the whole body of the cactus. One tip, it is to draw like smaller ovals as long as you're going up. I have finished my sketch, but there is a couple things that I would like to modify. I'm gonna use the selection tool. With the selection tool, you're allowed to take part of the illustration and make them modify the size. So for example, I'm gonna go around the cactus right in the middle. I'm gonna cut it out. And then you click in the transformation tool, which has the arrow symbol. You can move around the cactus, change the size, make it bigger, smaller. And what I'm gonna do is just making it slightly bigger because I want this cactus to be the main part of the illustration. I'm gonna play around with the rest of the cactus, just like change them until the illustration it looks the way I like. So you can do the same. It is absolutely fine if your sketch is looking a little bit wonky. It doesn't matter because at some point the sketch it will disappear, so don't you worry if some of the lines they don't match perfectly. Finally, you can just fix anything that it doesn't look right or add any extra arm to cactuses. Just do anything as you wish for the sketch to look the way you like. This is my final sketch, and now it's gonna be time to start adding color. So I'm gonna create one layer and move it underneath the sketch. I don't want the sketch to be that obvious, so I'm gonna lower the opacity, enough to see it but without being too obvious. And I'm gonna focus in the layer underneath. The brush that I'm gonna be using for now on, it is the oil canvas, and I'll start with the prickly pear cactus too. I'm doing this illustration to look like a real oil painting, so one tip to use this brush, it is instead of using a very long stroke, keep lifting your Apple Pencil from the screen, creating smaller strokes. That way, it will look more like oil painting and you will be able to differentiate the different brush strokes that are very common in that technique of painting. Also, because you want to be like more realistic, you don't have to color everything perfectly. You can leave some gaps, a little bit on color that is gonna make your illustration look even more realistic. I'm gonna focus now into the neck cactus. And to do that, I'm gonna create a new layer. Also, I'm gonna select a slightly green color, and the way that I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna start by the center, and I'm gonna color just 3 of the arms of the cactus, no more. Remember to keep lifting your pen, creating different brush strokes. That way it's gonna look more like oil painting. I want to color now the other arms of the cactus, but I'm gonna do it in a completely different layer. So I'm gonna create a layer, and I'm gonna move it underneath because these arms of the cactus is gonna be the back part of it. I'm gonna change the color a slightly darker green, and I'm gonna just go over the rest of the arms that they're missing. I like to do that into 2 layers and in 2 different colors to create some depth into the illustration and making it a little bit more interesting. Let's carry on with the next cactus. This time I'm gonna choose a completely different tone of green. I'm gonna go this time for a slightly yellowish. And creating a new layer, I'm gonna do exactly the same. Finally, I'm gonna go over the 2 last cactus, and I'm gonna do each in 2 different layers. I'm gonna start with the one behind that it is slightly bigger, and I'm gonna get another tone of green, and I'm gonna just color it. Very simple. Create a new layer for the final cactus, and choose another tone of green. I'm gonna go for a lighter one this time, and just color the shape. Next, I'm gonna focus on the floor. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a new layer and I'm gonna move it right underneath everything. The brush that I'm gonna use, it is the Canvas Impasto, and using this and an orange color, I'm gonna just color the whole thing. Don't you worry if it doesn't look perfect, because that is just to have an idea of the colors of the illustration, and we will change it later. Now I'm gonna focus on the edges of every shape, because I want them to make them even more irregular as they are, to look more as oil painting. For that, I'm gonna use the smudge tool and I'm gonna use the turpentine brush. Then it's super easy, just go around the edges and make them slightly more irregular. You don't have to go in every single edge, just pick up some of them that you like and just play a little bit around with this brush. Do exactly the same in every cactus. So just go to the different layers and keep repeating the same process. Now that our cactus is the main shape, it is ready, let's start adding some shadows and lighting. I'm gonna select Alpha Lock and I'm gonna start with this cactus first. I'm gonna change the brush to the Canvas Soft, and to select the color of the shadow, just take the green that you previously used and choose a darker tone. The way to add the shadows, it is to get in every section, adding a little shadow right at the bottom and on the right side. I'm gonna follow this process with each of the areas of this cactus, as you can see here. Now let's repeat the process, but this time with the light areas. Select a yellowish color, and in the completely opposite area that we draw, let's add some light. In this case, it's gonna be in the left top areas of each of the sections of the cactus. These brushes, the good thing is that they blend really well to just play around of how much pressure do you apply to create this effect. I'm gonna follow exactly the same process but with all the different cactuses. Let's go with the one next to it. And I'm gonna start with the arms of the cactus that are in the background, the dark ones. First, a dark color for the shadows, and I'm gonna focus at the bottom and on the right. And then a lighter color for the top and the left part of the cactus. If you see that there are any areas that they look a little bit patchy, go to the smudge tool and with the turpentine brush, go over and blend them. Let's repeat the process with the next layer, alpha locked, and then a dark color for the bottom and a light for the top. I'm gonna start with the light areas first in this cactus. And one more time, let's repeat the process with the following cactus. Alpha lock, I'm gonna select the color that I previously used and I'll start with a darker one for the bottom areas. Also, you can also add some shadows when the one cactus overlaps the other one. And then with a lighter color, a yellowish one, I'm gonna add some at the top and on the left. With these two final cactuses, it's gonna be slightly different. We'll start like adding some shadows when one cactus overlaps the other and at the bottom. But look, I'm gonna create with the dark color some lines that they go from the top to the bottom of the cactus to create this effect and texture of the cactus. Then I'm gonna change the color to a lighter one and I'm gonna add some lights in between the dark areas that we created before. As you can see now the cactuses look a little bit 3D. I'm gonna do exactly the same but with the other cactus, starting at the bottom, adding some shadows, and then I'm gonna add some lines to create this effect of 3D and adding some texture. Alright, so it is time now to add some final details to each of the cactus. I'm gonna create one layer and use clipping mask. And now using the oil canvas brush and a white color, I'm gonna draw some tiny lines to draw the cactus spikes. One tip it is to follow the directions of each of the sections of the cactus when drawing the spikes. So for example here I do these ones like going slightly like inclinating to the right, but the ones in the center they're gonna be a little bit more vertical. Now I want to add some flowers and for that I'm gonna create one layer. Make sure that it is not clipping mask or alpha lock or anything, just a normal layer. And let me show you this. For drawing the flowers I'm gonna be using the thick color or thick brush. They're both very similar but at the same time very different and I'm gonna explain you why. When using the thick brush you could see that all the brush strokes they're similar like color tone but still you're able to see the difference between all of them. However, when you use the thick color, the hue or color of the brush, it will change slightly. And then when drawing the flowers, just use any of those. I'm gonna use the thick color now and just draw some flowers at the top of some of the sections of the cactus. Really, really simple. Let's focus now into the next cactus. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create one layer and select clipping mask and I'm gonna start with the arms of the cactus that are at the background. I'm gonna use the oil canvas brush and with a dark color, I'm gonna draw some vertical lines that goes from the tip of the cactus to the bottom. Don't you worry if this line is not perfect, because I just like this irregular grunge look. When you finish, just lower the opacity and change the layer blending mode into multiply. Let's do exactly the same with the other layer. New layer, clipping mask, and let's do the lines that go from the top to the bottom. Don't forget to lower the opacity of the layer and also change the layer blending mode into multiply, or also this time color blend. I think I like more the way that it looks. I'm gonna create one final layer on top to add all the details. And the details, as we did before, they're gonna be the cactus spikes and also the flowers. So let's start with the oil canvas to add some spikes. I'm gonna add those in both sides of the lines that I have previously drawn and also on the sides of the cactus. Just make sure that you vary the type of spike and you go in different directions just to make it a little bit more irregular. Finally, I'm just gonna add some flowers right on top of the cactus in the same layer. I'm gonna change the brush to the thick and just change the color into one color that you like. I'm gonna use pink and add some flowers right at the top. Just 3 more cactus to go, so let's carry on. And with the next one, it's gonna be really similar to the cactus that we just did. I'm gonna create a new layer in clipping mask and I'm gonna do exactly the same lines over the cactus as we did before. This time the difference is because the arm of the cactus is a little bit more a curve. Just make sure that the lines they follow the direction. Also this time, instead of doing the lines just in one color, I'm gonna also pick up like a whiter color and do some lines in between the others. That way we are creating this type of texture in the cactus that I think it looks quite interesting. Let's create a final layer for the flowers. I'm gonna select like an orange pinky color and again the thick brush. And I'm gonna do some flowers around the cactus. Feel free to do something similar or any other flowers as you feel like. Let's go with the final cactus, and this time I'm gonna create one layer, clipping mask, and exactly the same with the oil canvas. I'm gonna do some lines, but this time I'm gonna follow the previously lines that we did with the shadows. Now I'm gonna use like a light color and I'm gonna just do like a lighter line on the right. I'm gonna repeat the same with the other cactus. New layer, clipping mask. I'll start with the dark color first, doing the lines following the previously like mark that we did, and then the same with the light color. Finally, I'm gonna create one layer on top for both cactuses, and in this layer I'm gonna draw all the spikes. The spikes this time, they're gonna follow the lines that we drew before, and as you can see it's like a V shapes, and I'm gonna draw all the lines in the same direction. Finally, I'm gonna draw like a crown of flowers at the top of this cactus. They're very common in the real ones. So with the thick brush, just go around and do some petals right on the top. Before we continue, I like to keep things organized. You can skip this step, but I like to do it, and it's just to group the layers depending in the cactus that they are. This way, if I need to make any changes later, I'm gonna find much easily to find the layer. So far, we have finished with all the cactus. Now we need to focus in the background and the floor. I'll start with the floor and using the canvas soft and selecting alpha lock in the layer, I'm gonna start changing the colors of the floor. The way that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start using different colors within the same tone, orange, pink, or yellow, and do different brush strokes. As you can see, I'm mixing all the colors and not paying that much attention of which areas are like light or darker. I'm literally just like playing around with all the brush strokes. I'm gonna paint pink all the areas where it should be like a shadows from the cactus in the floor. Finally, with the turpentine brush, if you see any patchy areas, just with a smudge tool, just go and blend them. I'm going to work in the background now, and I'm gonna start drawing some mountains at the back. I'm gonna create a new layer and drag it right at the bottom, and with the oil canvas brush and a pink color, I'm gonna draw the first one. Keep using the same method of lifting your pen from the screen, creating different brush strokes. I'm gonna create a new layer and do my second mountain on the left. This time I'm gonna use an orange color. The final thing that I'm going to do it is to work on the sky. I'm gonna color a section here of the sky, similar to a nebula or like a cloud, and I'm gonna be using the background canvas brush. You cannot really see that well because the color is very light and there's a lot of brightness, but I will pop up an image here on the left so you can see what I'm doing. And then also what I want to do is to draw like a sun because I want to do kind of like a sunset sky. And I'm gonna change the brush to the oil canvas as usual. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna draw like an orange color first and then a yellow color in the center. To blend the colors as usual, get the smudge tool and the turpentine brush and just mix both colors. Finally, with the pencil brush, I'm gonna do some dots to just create like a sky in the parts that I previously drew the cloud or the nebula. I'm just doing just like some dots and crosses. And finally, what I like to do is on the edges with the smudge tool, just like blend them a little bit. I think there is something missing here on the floor, so I'm gonna work a little bit more over there. I'm gonna select Alpha Lock in the floor and with the canvas soft, I'm gonna start adding more prominent shadows. I'm gonna start with the background, so the floor you can really differentiate it from the background, and also I'm gonna add some shadows underneath the cactus. Also now I'm gonna create one more layer and I'm gonna move it right on top. And in this layer, I'm gonna draw some leaves or plants. I'm gonna keep using the oil canvas brush for that. When drawing plants, I always start with the stem and then add the leaves on both sides. Also, I'm gonna add just like some lines and adding some dots to create another different type of plant. I'm gonna do the same in different parts of the floor, just to add more details and make it more interesting. For example, here I make the leaves in the color yellow and the dots in orange and yellow. Just carry on and add some plants in the areas that you feel like. You can follow my tutorial and do in exactly the same areas as I do, but feel free to do it in the way that you like the most. And that's how the illustration looks like. I hope you really enjoy it and you play around and use the different textures and it was easy to follow. Please, if you do it, tag us at School of Illustrations so we can share your art with the rest of the community. And also remember that if you are part of Monthly Brush Club, you can access to all the resources that I'm using as part of the different memberships. Also, in the student tiers, you can see here, if you send me the illustration, you can also get a personalized feedback of it. Thank you and see you next month in the next tutorial. Bye!